All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we've got a wild story for you. It's all about failure, a huge pivot, and building a legal empire, really, from the ashes of a completely terrible idea. We're talking about Legalist. So, let's just start with the big question. How in the world do you turn a failed startup idea into a billion-dollar investment fund? I mean, it sounds kind of impossible, right? But that's exactly what a couple of college students did, starting with an idea that was, let's be honest, dead on arrival. So, how did they do it?
Okay, so let's meet our main characters. You've got Eva Shang and her co-founder, Christian. Now, Eva, she's just in her early 20s when she drops out of Harvard to start a company. And listen, this was not some glamorous, high-tech startup launch. No, this was a guerrilla operation run straight out of a dorm room.
The whole thing actually kicked off as a class project. Christian was taking a data scraping class and decided, hey, why not target the super clunky Massachusetts State Court website? So what does he do? He sets up these two Mac Minis right there in Eva's dorm room. These were headless machines, no browsers, nothing, just secretly humming away, downloading terabytes and terabytes of public court data. The plan? Well, the plan was basically to figure out what to do with it all later.
And believe it or not, this scrappy dorm room project was impressive enough to get them into the legendary startup accelerator Y Combinator back in 2016. So they show up, feeling pretty good about themselves, totally ready to sell all this data to law firms. But on day one, that confidence was just completely shattered.
The general counsel at YC pulls them aside and lays down this piece of advice that was just brutal, but also a total game changer. He basically tells them, look, your core idea, it's fundamentally flawed. But here's the thing, he didn't just tear it down. He pointed them in a whole new direction. And this was the pivot. I mean, a massive one. They went from thinking they'd sell information about lawsuits to being told they should use their data to find promising lawsuits and actually invest in them. So they had to completely shift gears from being data vendors to becoming case funders. So what exactly is this world that they were suddenly thrown into? Litigation finance, it's not brand new, but it was definitely having a moment. For Eva and Christian, it was like taking a crash course in a super complex financial field that, frankly, they'd never even heard of before. But at its heart, the idea is pretty simple. Let's say you have a really strong lawsuit, but you just can't afford the sky-high legal fees. A litigation funder comes in, gives you the money to see the case all the way through, and in exchange, they get a piece of the pie, but only if you win. Let's break that down. So a plaintiff needs cash to fight their case. Legalist steps in, pays the lawyers, covers the costs, and basically keeps the case alive. Now, if the plaintiff wins, Legalist gets its investment back, plus a slice of the settlement money. But, and this is the really key part, if the plaintiff loses, Legalist gets absolutely nothing. Zero. It's a total all-or-nothing bet every single time. The analogy that apparently made it all click for them is actually pretty brilliant. Just think about it. Insurance covers a defendant's potential loss. That's what we call a contingent liability. Litigation finance does the exact opposite. It invests in a plaintiff's potential win, a contingent asset. It's literally the mirror image, the other side of the exact same coin. Okay, so they pivoted. Great. But how could two complete outsiders possibly compete against all these established finance players? Well, they went right back to their roots, technology. This is their secret weapon, their edge for finding the absolute best cases to fund.
And they have this amazing name for it. They call their algorithm the Truffle Sniffer. And it's a perfect name, right? Just like a pig sniffs out those super rare truffles hidden underground, their algorithm sifts through millions of court records to find these valuable, promising cases that everyone else might just walk right past.
But the tech, it only finds the leads. Their human team still has to dig in and analyze every single case based on three absolutely critical factors. First, liability. Is the defendant clearly in the wrong? Will they actually win? Second, damages. How much is the case realistically worth? They're super careful to avoid what they call lawyer math, where every lawyer thinks they have a billion-dollar case on their hands. And third, and this might be the trickiest one of all, collectability. And this insight from Eva Shang herself really gets to the core of the whole business. It's a pretty harsh reality. Winning a case on paper means absolutely nothing if you can't actually collect the money. I mean, you can win a $100 million judgment,
But if the defendant is broke or has masterfully hidden all their assets, your win is totally worthless. Mastering this reality is what separates the successful funders from the ones who go bust.
All right, so their pivot and this new tech-driven strategy, it didn't lead to overnight success. Not at all. At first, it was a really tough slog. But once their flywheel started spinning, man, it spun incredibly fast.
Just look at this journey. They raised their first pretty small fund in 2017, and then, and this is an incredible show of commitment, both founders decided they needed to actually become lawyers. So they go through this super rigorous apprenticeship program in California, and they both passed the bar in 2023. And they did all of this while scaling their company from a tiny startup into a major fund. Just wild.
And the growth was just explosive. I mean, they went from a small $10 million fund in 2017 to raising a massive $400 million fund just 5 years later. That is a 40 times increase in their fund size. It's staggering.
Which brings us right up to today. That little Harvard dorm room project, it has completely morphed into an investment firm that now manages over $1.5 billion in assets, from 2 little Mac Minis to a true financial powerhouse.
So the big question is, does the model actually work? Well, looking at hundreds of their concluded cases, their Truffle Sniffer and their underwriting process have delivered a seriously impressive 75% win rate. This proves they aren't just good at raising money, they're consistently picking winners.
So the story of Legalist really leaves us with this fascinating question. It's not just about the money, right? It's about what happens when curious, smart outsiders, people without the traditional credentials, use technology to completely rethink a slow-moving old-school industry. Eva and Christian proved it could be done in law, which really makes you wonder, what industry is next?